Microsoft Excel 2003 Basic Formulas. Here is where we take the first step in our journey toward the advanced material that we're going to find in this video series on Excel by looking at formulas. Hey, I think Excel, if you correct me if I'm wrong, is a spreadsheet program, which means I'm going to be doing adding, dividing, multiplication, and a whole bunch of things. Well, it all starts right here in this video. In this video, what we're going to do is just really go over the basics of what formulas are, like the fundamentals of what makes up a formula, the three types of formulas, what's going on with that. Creating and editing formulas. How do we get to a cell and start typing it in, or do we click, and what can we do? And then finally, I got to tell you, I love this feature, auto sum. So we're going to see what that does for us as well. Now, before we dive into producing these formulas in our Excel spreadsheet, first we need to know a few fundamentals of formulas. The first being that there are three types of formulas that we can produce. Three types. The first being the text-based formula. Now, a text-based formula is something where, for example, and by the way, you always have to use the equal sign in a cell to let it know that you're doing a formula. So I'd say equal, and let's say I did something like this, 902, and then I use the ampersand, which is a text base, 10. And so when you look at that cell and it runs this formula, it would concatenate or combine these two series of numbers, and I would get 90210. Just like Beverly Hills. Now we can also do numeric formulas. Now these are the ones that we're probably more familiar with. So I do an equal sign, and then maybe I want to add some cells together. So I would say A1 plus A2. Or I can do maybe a series of them. I could say equals A1 to A7. And see, these are simply adding A1 plus A2. That's plus, minus, so addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, the simple numeric ones. Then there are the logical formulas. No, we're not talking about only the formulas that Spock enjoys, but logical means we use a comparison operator, something like less than, or greater than, or even greater than or equal to. So if we use those types of operators, we are going to be using a logical type of formula. The other fundamental we need to know is that formulas can be up to 255 characters. And as I mentioned before, they must start with equals. Okay? So these are going to be the way that we produce these formulas, either in text, numeric, or logical. It can be up to 255 characters, but it must start with the equal sign. So now that we've looked at the fundamentals, let's dive in and do some actual formulas right here in our spreadsheet. So I'm going to open up a blank workbook. Got our brand new clean slate in front of us, and let's go ahead and enter some data and see how we can use these formulas. I'm going to go ahead and go across the row here from A1 to E1, and I'm just going to input some data. So I'm going to start here, type in 10, tab over, 23, 65, 89, and then we'll put in 200. Nice big number. Now what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to add up all the data that appears in A1 through E1 and have it automatically be placed into F1. So I'm going to use a formula to produce the data that's going to reside in F1. Now understand, I'm going to show you this a little bit later. I don't have to go immediately after the end, or this column, which is immediately after all these columns, or even if I went down, I don't have to do it immediately below the row if I want to. I can do it anywhere, but just for starting off with, we're going to stick right here with F1. So here, what I can do is one of two ways. I can use the point and click method of creating my formula, which I'll show you first, or I can manually type it in. Well, the first thing you're going to need to do in that cell is type in the equal sign, which lets you know, not the plus, the equal sign, which lets you know that you are going to do a formula. Now I'm going to click on A1, and then I'm going to type in plus because I want to add that one. Then I click on B1, add a plus, click on C1, add a plus. I think you're getting the joke here. Plus, and click on E1, and that is the finish of my formula. Now what I can do at this point is either tab or enter, and watch what happens. I now have 10 plus 23 plus 65 plus 89 plus 200 equals 387. Now watch what happens though when I click, because you can see the data 387, but when I click on that cell, just to remind you, it's going to show me what my formula is going to be to produce the data that's in that cell. So I can always double check if I'm ever wondering, hey, that number just didn't seem right. For example, let me go ahead and clear this. I'm going to edit. I am going to delete. Or no, I don't want to clear. Let me say edit, clear. I hit the wrong one. All, and that will clear not only the data that appears in F1, but it also clears all formulas and formatting that I have there as well. So now, let's say I wanted to do that again, and this time I come up here, and I can also type up here in the formula bar if I want, and I type in equals, and I'll show you the manual way. I type in equal, and I can type in A1 plus B1 plus C1 plus D1. Now let's say that I forget and I don't put in E1. I just hit enter. So now I'm thinking, if I'm just looking at this chart and I knew I wanted to add that together, and I say 10 plus 23 plus 65 plus 89 plus 200. You know what? I don't think that equals 187. What went wrong? Well, I can click on it, and it's going to show me that my formula is A1 plus B1 plus C1 plus D1. Oh, I'm missing E1. How do I fix that? Well, I can double click in the cell right here and start typing, or I can come on up to the formula bar and say, I want to now add E1 to finish out the formula. I hit enter, and wow, that looks a lot better. 387 is what 10 plus 23, 65, 89, and 200. If you add those all together, that equals 387. I promised I would show you how I don't always have to go to the end of these columns, or if I put the information down here at the end of the rows here, to do that. I can put this formula anywhere. Let's say I want to go all the way over here, and I am going to type in text here and say total. So that kind of gives it a, shows you what I'm trying to do. And I come over here to I-12. So I'm completely out here in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to type in a formula to add up all of those columns, A through F. Or I'll do A through E. We can do the same thing that we did here. So I'm going to use the point and click method. So I click on A1 plus B1 plus C1 plus D1 plus E1. Now when I hit enter, look what I have down here. I have the same total of A1 through E1 down here for 387. So if I click on that cell, again, I see the formula, and it just says, here's the cells that are giving me plus adding is giving me the information or the data that I'm going to place here in this cell. So I can even go over to a different worksheet and take information. Watch this. So if I go over here to sheet 2, watch carefully. I'm going to go ahead and grab data from sheet 1. Okay, so I come in and I say, I want a formula here. I put the formula, I put the equals, that starts my formula. Watch this. When I click on sheet 1, it populates it and says, oh, sheet 1 with an exclamation mark. That says that this is which worksheet the data is coming from. I click A1, and you guys are all becoming very familiar with this, right? Sheet 1, B1 plus sheet 1, C1. See what we're doing here? I'm merely selecting the cells that are going to be participating in this formula. Now, when I hit enter, it comes back, and sure enough, there is the number 387. We're very familiar with it now because we know that's all the numbers that are over here on sheet 1, A1 through E1 added together. Again, if I want to find out what the formula is, I merely select it and it says, look, I'm grabbing my data from sheet 1, A1, sheet 1, B1, sheet 1, C1. And if that was a different name, like if I called this January or February sales numbers or whatever it is, that's what would appear as it maneuvers this information into that particular cell. Last but not least, I do want to show you one way to do that formula we just did, the addition, without having to manually type in every single cell or even selecting every cell. It's been around for a while, and Microsoft recognized that whenever you're doing spreadsheets, you're typically going to be doing some addition, right? You're taking a total of the rows or the columns or cells. And so they've included something called the auto sum. For example, let's start over here and we'll go down the rows here on column A, and let me add up some more numbers here. 456, 236, 987, 215, 456, 987, 423, big one number there, and then 6589. Okay, I want to be able to add and sum all these numbers. Well, what I can do is select the range right here, and then come up here and click on the auto sum. When I click on auto sum, look what it did. It said, oh, you just wanted to add all of these numbers in the range, and it places it right there on that bottom. Now, if I want to, if I select that, notice it produced it. I click on the formula. It's just saying, look, I'm summing or I'm adding the range of A1 through A7. Let me go ahead and clear that out. I'm going to clear it all, and I want to show you. I can place that summation just about anywhere I want to. I merely select from here to the top, go all the way. Maybe I want that to appear down here at row 14. I come here and I say auto sum. Look, it pops it down here. Now, be careful. Watch what happens. When I click on this, it's saying I'm auto summing A1 through A13. Now, if I add some more information here, let's say I add another 1,000. And I go down. Watch what happens below. The number changed. 457072216 became 457082216. Let me add another 2,000. 2,000, and I do it again, and it automatically updates. So just be careful. Just because you say, oh, I want to put the auto sum amount down here, and you've selected this entire range, watch out, because it will, anytime you put any more data there, it assumes that you want to do that and you want to place that right where I put it. If you think that's great, watch this. It's not only allowing you to do addition or summing, you can do a lot of other things as well. Let me come down here and select this, and we will again clear that out. Clear all. I'm going to select this range, and I'll just pop it down here on row 10 because that's all I want to do. And I come up to the auto sum. Now, if I do auto sum, it will do the addition. But look at the drop down arrow. I can come here and say, you know what? I can average it out. I can count how many, pieces of data are in there. If I hit count, watch, it says 9. There's 9. Okay, let me undo that. And now I can also go down and say, I want to find out what the maximum is. Okay, well, that makes sense. The maximum was 456,98723. Makes sense. I can also do a minimum. But watch this. More functions. If I click on more functions, and we'll talk about this in a later video about the difference between formulas and functions, but here you can see I can do just about anything I want. If I can go down here, all my financial ones, I can do internal rate of return, I can do all kinds of great things. I can do net present value. We can do very cool things by utilizing the auto sum function, and it will automatically fill in. So I'll cancel that and we won't use it. But see, the auto sum button right up here really takes it to the next level when I want to do formulas. And when we get to the video on functions, whether it's the basic functions and the more advanced functions we're going to show you, you can see I can set it up to do it right here by using the auto sum and not have to go in and design and type in something for myself. we've begun our journey into the worlds of formulas and functions with the right step. We took a look, first off, at the fundamentals. Remember, we have the three different types of formulas. We have text-based, numeric, and logical. We also said it can be up to 255 characters, and it must start with an equal sign. And as we dive deeper in, there's a few other things to consider, but we'll see those in other videos. Then creating and editing the formulas. When I click on a cell and I type equal, what comes next? What do I start typing? Do I click? What can I do? And then finally, the auto sum. It's not just going to take all that range of cells that you selected or that column and then add them together. I can do things like averaging. I can do counting. I can do just about anything with that button. Whatever I tell it to do, I can set it and hit one button instead of, typing in or clicking on all the cells. So AutoSum is our friend. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.